Hey everybody, welcome to Painting for Pleasure. I'm your host, Tony Visco. And today we're going to do a Vermont barn. We're going to do a white barn. Here's the photograph that I'm using. This was taken probably, I don't know, some time ago. Maybe 20 years, I'm not too sure. Haven't been up there in a long time, but it was somewhere up in the Vermont area, and I did a workshop up there, and I was taking a bunch of photographs. So this is one of them. There's actually a big house that's over here. We're only taking a look at the barn and how this sets up on the paper. I've already pre-sketched it out, so we'll just start to work on this. I'm going to put my reference up here. Now, we're painting a white barn, which basically means in order for me to get this barn as white as possible, we're painting around it. We're going to paint dark around the area. That's going to be a very important part of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a little bit of magic here. Here's my palette. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, pick up a lot of water and put it in here. Pick up a lot of cobalt blue. I'm going to start to just get a lot of cobalt blue into this area. Nice and wet. I need a lot of it because I need to cover pretty much all of the area behind, and it's going to be blue and blue-green. I'm going to add a little bit of my cerulean blue with it as well. So the combination of those two, we're just going to come in here and we're going to start to paint. Now, I'm not wetting the paper first in this case. What I'm basically doing is I'm going to wet this paper as I go. It's nice and wet, nice and loose. We're just going to start to paint with a lot of watery texture, and I'm going right around these trees. And what I'm going to basically do is come over here and come in and trap the house. That is to say, what I'm going to do is come in to the top of where the peak of the building is, not the house but the barn. Well, we're going to do the house too, and we're going to come around here and make it nice and dark. And as I come around, I'm probably going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson. Well, I'm sorry, not alizarin crimson because it's going to be too much. Probably a little bit of my opera rose to this, and we're going to come in here and we're going to end up coming around again the building. There's my chimney. Come straight up. We're covering this whole area. As I come around this side here, we're going to make it a little cooler and come into this area here. A little cooler by adding a little bit more of my opera rose to it. Get it a little bit more purple. All right. In terms of coming around here. So we're going to go from this sort of purple color into this area down here. Now what's going to happen down here is we're going to get dark and we're going to be greener because this is all hill back here. So I'm going to add, to get my green, I'm going to add into this mixture. I'm going to come over here and grab my new gamboge, and I'm going to add that into my mixture. And I'm going to make that green as I come down into this area here. A little bit more. Make it a little bit greener here. It's going to be green down in this area. And I'm going to actually come in here and do a little bit even lighter. Leave this a little bit. I'm going to trap this a little bit, make some white in here. I want something warm. A little bit of... Now what I'm doing is I'm adding even greener, more of a brilliant, warmer green, by adding cerulean blue to this mixture. All right, cerulean blue will give me a nice lighter green, and that green is going to come over, let's see, this is going to come across here and go back, so I'm going to do my green grass in here. We'll make this a little darker, but I'll put it in now. Okay, and cerulean blue, nice and light, and I'm going to add a little bit of lighter area here, water, and down in this area now, what I'm going to come in here and do is add some yellow ochre to this, because yellow ochre is a super color. And we're going to come in here and we're just going to give it a little bit of that. And I don't want this all to run down, so I'm going to sort of work it up in this way. As you can see, I'm just letting that paint run back a bit as it soaks in. And the yellow ochre combined with my light green area should be nice. Change it up a bit here and here, and change it up in a bit in this area right here. We're going to make this nice and light. Come across here. So we're completely trapping a lot of this. And I'm going to leave a couple of white areas. We'll make those really light. I'm going to work this really watery area now into my my wall over here. I want it lighter and watery, more on the sort of, no, not too much, not too green, but let's say yellow ochre, because this is actually going to go all dark back here. My wall area is going to end and come down, and we're going to get into a little bit of my brown, and by brown I'm talking about a little bit of burnt sienna in here. And then we're going to go gray. Right, but what I have to do now is be careful of this again, because all of that pigment is going to end up running down. And we're going to run it. I'm lifting this up, all right? So I'm running this back. I'm back running this a little bit, and we'll lift it. We'll do it upside down. And over here, I'm just going to take out as the water seeps across the tape. I'm just going to remove that. Okay, this water is going to be sort of coming in here and soaking in to the top. Turning it around, put it up here, and let that sort of dry a bit. Okay, we just missed a big spot right here, didn't we? Let's take my brush, and we're going to have to come in here, and I have to put a little bit of that in there. I'm going to end up having an issue, or I'm going to have to put something in there to make it more interesting. You see that white? I don't know if you see it, but I have a white spot that's right up in here, which I want to just make blue. I want to go back and heavily, let's get more of this blue in here. Now I'll probably put trees in here anyway, but just to make sure that we cut all of the sky covered. And I'm going to do something that's very light. And on the stone wall, this is going to be sort of a light, very light gray on the stone wall coming across. And the stone wall goes probably to this point under here. This is my stone wall here. Light gray. Sorry, let's get this back down here so you can see it. All right, so my stone wall is going to be a base color. It's a light gray. Base color. All right. So we'll work that back, leaving this light white over here. And we're going to end up removing some of this. See all of this color is starting to settle in up here, so we just need to pull some of that out of here. So I'm just coming in here and just touching it up a little bit more. Okie doke. So we have my yellow in here, my green in here, my blue in here, cooler colors over here. Come back in here with my, I'm going to make some of the sky a little bit more interesting here. We're going to make some of the darker colors a little bit more interesting too. All right, which basically means I'm going to come back here in my with a little bit more pigment. Now I'm mixing. What I'm doing is I'm coming over here and I'm mixing cerulean blue and cobalt blue together. All right, cerulean blue and cobalt blue together with a little bit of my alizarin crimson, and coming in here and picking up a little bit of my brown, which is my burnt sienna. All right, a combination of the two. It's going to be a stone area in here, and this is the area that I have to come back in with a little bit of heavy pigment now. So let's get some heavier pigment. Okay, so this is going to be a combination of yellow ochre, cobalt blue, right? Yellow ochre, cobalt blue. And I'm going to make this yellow ochre and cobalt blue pretty much the consistency of butter. All right, consistency of butter, heavy, very little water. And we're going to put it into this watered area. And we're going to end up coming up here the same way, because I have some trees that are going to be here. This is going to be, let's say, conifer trees. I had my conifer trees in this area. Now I want to cover, what I'm really doing is I'm covering, see the peak of the roof right here as it comes down. I'm just trapping that so that we have sort of a nice clean edge coming down over there. And I'm going to do the same over here. Add a little bit of value here and come across here with what we would consider maybe some trees or bushes, what do you call it, back in this area right there. And this mountain, this area right in here. Landmass that's back here. So we've got some stuff going on back there, nice docks, and we have a few good dock areas, strong dock areas in this area here, and maybe down in this area here. Again, I'm going back to my real heavy docks, cobalt blue, burnt sienna, and we're going to put in some docks back in this area here where the wall is, top of that wall is, okay, and make some docks there, keep this nice and light, and the wall itself is, we're going to end up having some docks in here as well, and we'll make those burnt sienna, a lot of burnt sienna, nice and heavy. I'll use a smaller brush to get in there, but I want to leave some of that nice and light. Okay. Nice and dark over there. And same thing with this. Let's get some, that's a lot of green, but we're going to get some yellow ochre in here. And again, this is all, we're dealing with just colors that are the colors that I'm using right now. The pigment is a pigment of combination of yellow ochre and my cobalt blue. Trying to get that nice and dark up here, and we're going to do the same thing with this up here. Nice heavy pigment. Again, this is a landmass back here. And we'll make this, I'm going to make this nice and dark around here. All right. So again, in order to paint this barn white, what are we doing? We need to paint everything else pretty much on the dark side. Now I don't want, what I'm really doing is I'm avoiding, I'll tell you what I'm doing here. I'm avoiding taking this, I'll show you the photograph again. Let's see if we can do this here. But you notice in the photograph, if we put it up here, this sort of mountain, this hill back here is touching the peak of the house, and I do not want that to happen here. I want to stay away from that. I'm going to remove some of that. Get that a little bit light there. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a, where's my smaller brush? I have my little angle brush here, which is kind of cool. I love this little brush here. adding a little bit of water in here. See if we can pull out. Lighten this all up a little bit. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of little dark areas in there, and we're going to just let this sort of set up a little bit. Okay. Probably going to bring some light areas out of it. I'm working the wet this of the brush here just to create the illusion of some of these interesting trees back here. I don't want them to be too dominant, but I do want them to be strong enough to give us the impression that we're trying to create. I have trees that are in this area. We're going to lighten this up. Some of these over here. A little water. Let the water seep in and come in, and we have the sun coming down here, so it's going to be hitting some of this area here. Some of this is going to be light. I'm just basically coming in here and just sucking up some of this water here. Some of this value that I just put in here, making some of this lighter. This is actually going to dry probably a lot lighter than it is showing here. Want some light area. We'll make that. We'll fix that all up pretty soon. Same way with this here. We're going to end up coming in here with a little bit of nice a brush and pull out. Let that dry. Come in here with okay. And I'm just coming in here and just giving it, adding some grass to it, some bushes. Yep, I'm painting around all of that other stuff up there right now. Just painting in here while we have the chance, because some of this is super wet, and we need to address that. Now this is all going to be dark up here. We're going to have a bush up in this area here, and it's pretty good. Pretty much going to be a dark area. Got a sort of bush right here. Whoops, sorry. Got it. See it? All right. We're going to come down in this area here. We got some. We want to make it interesting, right? We're trying to make it interesting. I want it dark in a lot of areas, but I don't want it necessarily all the same color. And that's the key to this, a lot of this stuff. Okay, we want to definitely make it it's a bush that's growing out of here, but we don't want to necessarily make it all the same color. Now, again, some darks over here on the ground, a few darks in here, and we definitely have a small sort of bush right over here in this area here. Okay, and we do have some grass along here. Okay, so can you see where I'm going with this? We do have some things happening. We want to make sure that we get that as much as possible. Some darks are going to be in this area here. And these are just, what I'm doing is I'm coming in here and I'm just making little marks. I'm going to make some a little bit darker by adding my French ultramarine blue and burnt sienna together. And see if I can, see if I can create this sweep of okay. I'm not going to get too fancy with the stuff that's going on down there. I'm just going to pop out some stone, some light stone. This is it's a stone I guess it's fieldstone, or I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I don't want to do too much. I want this to be pretty much a very loose painting if I can do it. All right. A little bit of that. When those come in, we'll just add a little bit more dark into those areas and catch some flowers, maybe put some red flowers in there. We'll see what happens. We actually have some stuff going on over here too. Okay. All right, so we're going to let this settle down, dampen out, dry out a little bit. Then we're going to come back and put some little darker area on some of these trees to help pop that out a little bit more. Let's let it dry, and then I'll be right back. Okay, we're recording now. So I want to cut a couple of little pieces in here. My fingernail sometimes works very well if this is still a little bit wet. I scraped in here, scraped in here. A lot of it is dry, and I can't do that. So we'll scrape it where we can. Create some lighter flowers in here. Offset that, not much, just a little bit. This is not quite, I don't think, dry enough, but let's see if we can pull a couple of light spots over here too as well. All right. That's still pretty wet over in this area. I'm going to scrape in a couple of light areas. See what happens with that, my trees. Okay, may have to go back over that stuff, we'll see. Okay, all right, so here's the thing. What's shadow? We're going to paint white, and the only way we can paint white is to paint the shadows. Right? We're just going to paint the shadows. So I'm going to take cerulean blue, very watery cerulean blue, and we're going to paint the shadows. Now if the light is coming this way, then what's going to end up happening is that we're going to end up having this guy here is going to be in shadow. Okay. We're going to make that, it's going to be in shadow. Shadow there. We will do a shadow here. Darker shadow under these. All right. we're definitely going to have this all in shadow under here. We're going to have a shadow over in here. We're going to have a shadow probably under here as well, because we'll be underneath that little deck that's there, and we're going to end up having a shadow, which I will use a smaller brush for. We'll do a shadow that's going to be here under the eaves, right? Leave this white. Bring a shadow down there. Nice and light. Darker under here. A little bit of a shadow here. Let's just give it a tiny bit of it. Okay. And we want to just basically make this a little bit darker here and here. Definitely want a deeper shadow here. Definitely want a deeper shadow in here. All of this area in here is going to be in deep shadow. We have my windows are going to be over here, and the windows themselves, these are the shutters, but the windows themselves are going to be we'll do the same thing in here. And we're going to end up doing the same thing. We're going to make these darker, but this is all I'm really doing right now is just giving you an indication of where those darks are going to be. All right. Light. We'll make those a lot darker, actually. We have a barn door down here. Okay. And I'm going to end up pulling some of this out of here. Okay. Okay. All right. We're just going to enhance a couple of these stone a little bit. That's it. We don't need more than that. Just want enough to make the statement. That's all we need. So if this here is in, let's see, the corner of the house comes out to here. Yeah, so we want to do another one right in here. All right. So let's just do this. We're on the ground. Let's see what we have here. We also have a little bit of a barn. Looks like a barn door of some sort here. Let me just get this. This is what I want right here. All right, so we're going to come across here. We're going to come down. Oh. We'll do something like that. We got a bunch of things going on down there. Can't really tell what they are. So we need to make the inside of those windows pretty dark, right? So let's go over here. Oh, we can see this. Yep, we can see it. Okay. So I'm going to do the okay, close enough. How about some nice dark in here? My dark in here. Okay, some dark areas. Okay. We will make that more interesting, as we will make this more interesting. Just waiting for this stuff here to dry, actually. And then we're going to end up, you know what I also want to do here? I'm going to take one big dark area. Rather than have a barn with a door that's closed, I'm going to end up having a barn. We're going to end up opening this door. So we want to get this get some nice dark in here. Let's get this nice and dark. We'll be looking inside that barn. That way, that's just too much of a white area. Dark. Let's do a nice dark under here. And our roof overhang. Okay. A little bit of something going on over there. See that white barn's going to start to pop out here. Let's just get a nice small brush. Do this. We have this, and we're going to end up having that, which is going to be a wooden structure coming across there. And because the light's on it at this side, the light is going to be, it's going to be lighter and browner. Okay, that's that wood, and we'll make, see if I can get this done without putting my head in here. It's not the way to do it. We're going to end up doing that a little different. I don't mind some of that color, don't misunderstand me, but I gotta make that a lot more rigid. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need our very thin rigger. So we're going to end up working with that, and we're going to end up working with some darks up here in that area as well. So let's take my rigger. And we're going to end up changing, and this is going to be interesting because we're going to end up changing up my shadow areas a little bit. A little stronger values. And I'm not too sure. Let me just take a look at this. Well, we do have, may have to scrape some of that out of there. Let's get a little bit of that, sort of brownish tone in here, and we're just going to end up giving that a little highlight, a little warmth up there. And this is a shadow, but we need to make sure that we understand what's happening here. Make that warmer. Okay. We have light area here, here, and here. To accent that, we're going to end up with a shadow over here. We've got a deep shadow under here. And we're going to make this a little darker. And here, this comes down. This comes down. Okay. Now what else? There's a little bit of a soft shadow that's happening here. 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 A little bit of a softer shadow in those areas there, and we have definitely something here, something here, and this is literally something there. Okay, a little darker underneath here. And we have a nice little line there. skylight. I'm going to probably put something up here too. This has got to be darker, absolutely. We'll just make this nice and dark here. And we'll see what, let it go. We'll catch that probably in the morning or something like that when I come take a look at this again. So, okay, so that's kind of cool. Let's go back and take a look at some of this stuff here. These are darks. Okay, we're gonna make this. We have this tree. Probably shouldn't have put it right at the peak of the roof there, but we'll see where it goes. All right. Let's get some make it nice and heavy. Okay. One there, one there. Maybe one here. I think we have probably a few nice dark trees right in this area here. Couple of small trees. We have probably something in this area here. Let's see where this all goes. Trees in this area. Subtle. On the ground. Dark against dark back there. It's just, we're going to end up taking a really light texture on that. Some shadows. Maybe some shadows in this. A little bit of that going on. Okay, I think we're pretty close to wrapping this up. Let's get maybe a little bit more form and some dark greens in here. A little bit more interest. I don't want to keep it. I don't want to make it too busy. Maybe we'll just do it like that. And I'm going to come back in here and kill some of this real bright light. Area and make it nice and green, okay? So that's going to be it until I got to get that darker in there, but that's probably about as close as we're going to get to what we want, what we need. I do want to do something here. I do want to make this a little bit darker. If this is going to be lighter, geez, I'm almost afraid to do this, but let's see if we can come down here. Down here, and What I'm doing is I'm using a little bit of my violet, not violet, but my lavender. Ooh, holy Toledo. Well, maybe that'll work. See how that works. It's pretty. Okay. I'm going to let that dry because and then I will finish this up. Hi again. Now I'm just going to take out a little bit of light, and I want to show you how. What I've done on this particular piece of paper here, this is a hard paper, very similar to Asha's, so it takes a lot of abuse. And what I did is I put some masking tape right in this area right here because I want to create light windows that are in the back of this barn, so we're seeing through it. So what I just did is I just put tape over here, around here, to create a nice square or a nice rectangle. And normally like I said, normally I don't mask, but this is a case where every once in a while you need to do something that's going to create that illusion. I can either use white paint, or I can simply mask it and remove the pigment. Okay, so we're going to end up going back to white paper, and I'm going to just do it something like that, so I'm seeing through it. And now I'm going to lift off this. This is just a small little few things that I'm going to do here to just help this along. So we're going to carefully lift this off, and you'll see what happens. Okay, still a little bit on the wet side. And generally it's a good idea when you do this stuff only to use the tape once, because see what happens? I should let that dry, but that'll be fine anyway. Because no matter what happens, usually water gets underneath because of the hills and the valleys that are in the paper. So slowly, you don't want to rip it too hard. You don't want to pull the tape off too hard. And the reason obviously is because you're going to end up ripping the paper. That happened to me in a couple of sheets back in that area. Now technically speaking, that's incorrect because I just did this too straight. It probably needs to go at the same. I'm just going to come over here and just do it at a little bit more of an angle. Right there. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Right in here. A little bit of an angle. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Now, at this point, all I'm really going to do is give it a little tone and put a little bit of a dark value in there. Now, I'm actually looking at when I'm looking back in here, I'm looking at the trees and the growth in the background. So the important thing here is to just give this a little bit of a greenish, lighter greenish tone. A little cerulean blue. I don't want it totally white. Light, yes, but not totally white. Right? And we'll let that dry, because I need to make this nice and sharp. And then what we'll do is we'll put a couple of hard lines in here. But that's about it. That's all I'm really going to do to this. Just to give it the feeling that I'm looking back a bit. So with that in mind, I think we're good. And I'm delighted that you've been with me. Just going to come over here and just take a little bit of water and do a little bit more shadow right in this area here. And a little darker shadow under here. This is basically what happens here is that this is just shadows on the trees. I want to make this a bit darker right there. Okay. All right, looks good. That's enough. That's all I need. A couple of little windows back there, and that's it. So thank you for being with me. I'm your host, Tony Visco, and this is another episode of Painting for Pleasure. Very quickly, one other thing. I'm removing the tape. See what happened up here in this area? What I did is I pulled the tape off and it ripped in. So you've got to be very careful about doing this. So when you're pulling the tape off, make sure that you're pulling it away from the paper and you pull it off slowly. This is actually too fast. You can see some of the tape ripping up the paper a bit. But this is just to give you an idea as to what can happen. As I see my paper ripping up, the slower you do this, the better it's going to be. You won't have that problem. If you do it quickly, it's going to rip up. Ashes might be a little bit more durable than this paper. I'm not too sure. But here again, the one thing that's nice about taping the edges is it gives you a nice border. Okay? Okay, thank you.